Hey everybody, I wanted to go over real quick on how I've gotten to where I have gotten with this research. If you're just starting and you haven't paid attention to what I've been doing, then a lot of this may seem, kind of crazy. But I have methodically gone through and studied across culture various things, and I'm going to take you through that real quick. I'm not going to make this a long, in-depth presentation. For those of you that are not aware, I'm going to just do something really quickly. First of all, I'm taking a look right here at the Kybalion. The Kybalion are the ancient teachings of Hermetic philosophy. This goes back to ancient Egypt. This goes back before Christianity as taught by the church during after the fall of the Roman Church. Now, for any of you that need a history lesson, there's lots of timelines that you guys can go grab out there on the internet. Egypt basically started everything, Sumer afterwards. Sumer was the first ones to do writing, but ancient Egypt used hieroglyphs. And so what you find over history, okay, and no matter where you go, when Rome fell, the Catholic Church started right after that. Okay? So here we go. Here's Christianity right here. Roman rule. Emperor Constantine reunites East and West empires with capital at Constantinople. Christianity. So he converted to Christianity, and it was around 380 AD, I believe, is when he converted. Rome fell, and guess what rose up was the Roman Catholic Church. And so what the Romans had done is they had conquered Egypt. They went in, they took that information, and what you even find, they even worshipped the same gods for a while, Isis and so forth, okay, until that was replaced. That's the reason why you see this common thing of Isis nurturing Horus, and you always see that with the same thing with Mary and Jesus. It's the same story. They took it and they twisted it and turned it into something different. Then the Catholic Church came in and they took that into the worship of a being rather than the worship of an ideal, which is Christ consciousness, which is what this is really all about. Here's several comparisons of Isis and Horus versus Mary and Jesus. You can see right here. This one right here is very telling. Before, after, way after. You can see how this has been carried over through history. It's just the same story carried over through history. Except for what the Catholic Church did is they twisted it into being a separate being that everyone's supposed to worship. Okay, here's one with mother and child, and they're wearing crowns. Okay, so you can see how this all came from this. Okay? Now, the original teachings, I'm going to go back to the Kybalion again because this goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. They have what's called the different principles of the universe, okay? The different principles and laws of the universe. They're the 7 Hermetic principles is what they call them. And, for example, these guys knew what they were talking about because they knew, for example, quantum physics. Nothing rests, string theory that is, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. They knew this all the way back in ancient Egypt. They weren't stupid people. We still can't figure out how they built the pyramids today. But yet our newer religions, our newer understandings of the universe somehow trump what the older ones are. The reason why that is because our history has been taken from us. So, one of the things that they understood about the universe, and the reason that's giving that history there is because I'm trying to let you know that these guys a long time ago knew what was going on. All this history has been destroyed. Okay? And they don't want us to really know what's going on. But this has nothing to do with some savior that's going to come and save you out of the clouds. Once again, think of the parent-child scenario. The parent does not pick up the kid and save them every time the kid does something wrong. If you do that, the kid doesn't learn anything. Okay? So you can also apply this to aliens and whatever else you'd like to apply it to. There's nobody that's going to come save us from everything, save us from all of our problems that we've created from ourselves. We have to do that ourselves. However, there is something that the universe does, and it empowers us through states of being. And one of the things that the Kybalion recognizes is that the universe is mental. It's says the universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. This is philosophy that goes way back to ancient Egypt. I'm going to go ahead and read this first paragraph to you. The all is spirit. But what is spirit? This question cannot be answered, for the reason that its definition is practically that of the all. The all, in Hermetic philosophy, by the way, is basically another way of saying God. But we have to understand that God is everything. It's not some separate being in the clouds. If I have to, let me go ahead and refer you to the Gospel of Thomas, which was also left out of the Bible. And by the way, for people who are really up on the Bible, you need to understand that the Bible was put together by the Catholic Church, okay, using what's called canon law, where somebody goes in and they decide what goes in and what is left out of the Bible. You can go on to Wikipedia. Canon law is the body of laws that regulations made and adopted by ecclesiastical authority for the government of the Christian organization and its members. It is the internal ecclesiastical law governing of the Catholic Church. So that means that all Christians out there that follow the Bible, you must understand that the Bible was formed by the Catholic Church putting all the books together. And of course they not only did that do that, but they also interpreted the way they saw fit. So when they mention Jesus Christ, and the way that they interpreted a long time ago has been carried over minus slight variations for people and the way that they do their rituals and so forth. The general meaning of what they interpreted Christ as has been carried over through the centuries, even to other non-Catholic organizations, even Protestants and so forth. They all believe Jesus to be the same thing. You also have to remember Jesus is a Greek word, and you're not going to find the word Jesus or somebody's name Jesus anywhere over in Israel. His name was not Jesus Christ. They called him Jesus the Christ, because the Christ basically means that he has reached a certain level of consciousness. For example, they called him Jesus the Christ. Okay? Higher consciousness, also called super consciousness, yoga, objective consciousness, Gurdjieff, Buddhic consciousness, theosophy, cosmic consciousness, God consciousness, and Christ consciousness are expressions used in various spiritual traditions to denote the consciousness of a human being who has reached a higher level of evolutionary development and has come to know what reality is. And this is what Jesus, the teacher Jesus, did. So he's not to be worshipped as a god. What's supposed to be understood is that he reached a higher level of consciousness. And what you find throughout the Bible is that it talks about the mind and it talks about astrotheology, if you will allow yourself to interpret it differently than the church has given it to you. I'm now looking at the Gospel of Thomas. Okay? This is one of the most important texts that I've seen that was left out of the Bible. And he said, this is really important. Jesus said, leaders say to you, look, the Father's kingdom is in the sky, then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, it's in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the Father's kingdom is within and is outside you. This also agrees with the Kabbalion. Okay? He says that for reason this definition can practically that of the all, which cannot be explained or defined. Spirit is simply a name that men give to the highest conception of infinite living mind. And that's where we're going here with all of this. We're going to see how this corresponds to the mind, what I've been showing you. And we're going to, let me just read the rest of this paragraph for you. It means the real essence. It means the living mind, as much superior to life and mind as we know them, as the latter or superior to mechanical energy and matter. Spirit transcends our understanding, and we use the term merely that we may think or speak of the all, which is God, which is everything around you, including you. For this purpose of thought and understanding, we are justified in thinking of spirit as infinite living mind, at the same time acknowledging that we cannot fully understand it. We must either do this or stop thinking of the matter at all. Okay, so let me give you an analogy real quick. Imagine that you are this mind, this infinite living mind, as high up as you can possibly think of, even though we cannot perceive infinity, where we consider it to be the one, where everything started from. Then imagine that this one has a dream. The dream and everything around inside it, the whole environment, everything inside it that moves around, everything like that, would be almost considered holographic, right? Because what you're doing is you're dreaming, and you're dreaming of something in your mind that's not necessarily physical matter as we know it, but it's holographic. It's like a matrix. That's kind of what we live in. We live in the dream, in a dream of a higher consciousness. That's my interpretation of what I believe is going on here. And I'm going to try to show this to you as this video progresses. So, the mental universe. This goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, and they understand that, that the universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. Okay? Another very important principle that everyone is now realizing is true is that the planes of correspondence, as above, so below, so above. It's not just as above, so below. It's as above, so below, so above. That is the principle of correspondence. And we can see that now in a lot of things. We can see that that's coming true. So these guys really knew. They had a very good understanding of the universe a long time ago. And this is not a religion. This is philosophy and an understanding of the universe. You might consider it science, as understood a long time ago. And they had a really good understanding of it, as you're going to see. Now let's hop over here to the Egyptian Book of the Dead. We'll look at the very top of this. It says, "Homage to the Osiris, Lord of Eternity, King of the Gods, whose names are manifold, whose forms are holy, thou being hidden in hidden form in the temples." Well, think of the two temples on your head. It's hidden in the very inside of your head, whose Ka, which is basically another way of saying the soul a long time ago, is holy. Okay, so basically what it's saying here is this God is hidden in the form of the temples. It's actually acknowledging that consciousness, or the mental universe. So I'm using the Book of the Dead to back up the Kabbalion, which is from ancient Egypt. And you're going to find that what I do is I source everything. I'm going to source the Bible, I'm going to source the Mayans, I'm going to source other things as well. So what you'll also find is that I typically enjoy looking at art and pictures more because they tell more than words do. Words can be twisted over time, as we've seen. For example, if I go to Bible.cc, and you guys know why you have to be very careful when you look into the Bible, because look, this is one verse, and look at all the different translations we have in it. Okay, we can go back to, say, for example, the King James Bible, and it says, "The light of the body is the eye. Therefore, when thine eye is single, thy whole body is full of light." Okay? And then, of course, they add, "But when thine eye is evil, thy body is also full of darkness." Now let's go up and take a look at what the New International Version, copyright 1984, George Orwell, writes. "Your eye is the lamp of the body. When your eyes are good, your whole body is full of light." That's nothing compared to what this says down here. But you can see how over time they have twisted the words, and now we have all these different versions of the Bible, and you can go and you can read any verse in the Bible and you can read it 20 different ways. But the problem is that nobody ever interprets the Bible for themselves. They let other people interpret it for them. And that's where all of the, if you want to call it evil, is. That's where it is. And that's why it's important to not just look at the Bible, folks, but you have to look at everything. Okay? Okay, now we saw from the Egyptian Book of the Dead that Osiris was the invisible god in between the temples. Okay, which to me, you can interpret it the way you like, but the invisible god between the temples means consciousness, what's inside your head. Well, Osiris was also associated to Orion. Okay, and we're going to see how this actually falls into place a little bit later on. But down here is, and what you also have to remember too, is that people say that Orion is the hunter, but that was a name given to Osiris a long time after the Egyptians first gave him the definition of the place of afterlife and rebirth. So this is the original, afterlife and rebirth. Okay, and through the hope of the new life after death, Osiris began associated with the cycles observed in nature, particularly vegetation and the